Good evening, everybody. We're going to get started. So I'll wait a couple seconds. Are we ready to go? Excellent. Okay. My name is Sean Spano, and I'll be your facilitator this evening. I'm going to get us organized, and I'll spend a couple minutes getting us organized for how we're going to spend the next hour and 15 minutes together. Here is our agenda for this evening. I will be setting up the meeting purposes here and the logistics, and it'll take me just a couple minutes to do that. I'm going to then turn it over to Christy Weiss, who will walk through a small number of slides to give background on the EIR and to help frame the content for the meeting tonight. Clearly, our meeting tonight is to elicit and receive public input on the draft EIR. So, with that said, there are a couple logistic issues that I want to attend to here. Oh, and then obviously, the third item on the agenda is the most important item on the agenda, which is your public comment tonight. We have two purposes for the meeting tonight, and that's to provide the overview and project alternatives on the EIR, Environmental Impact Report, both the process and the content. And then that's Christy's presentation, and then she will turn it back to me, and then I will help facilitate the public comment period, which again is the bulk of our meeting. So you have a couple pieces of materials here. There is the agenda that was outside, and I'm gonna walk us through the back side of this for just a couple minutes, and then for those of you who are wanting to speak tonight, there are the comment cards, and we are going to ask you to fill out the comment cards. They're on the table outside, and then there's also some comment cards over here. We're not looking at the blue ones tonight, we're looking at the white ones tonight. And I'll say a little bit more about this when we come to the public comment period, but please fill out, if you want to speak, fill out the public comment card, and you can just come and set them right here. We'll queue up, and I'll call out the names, and we'll queue up, and you'll come forward to the microphone. The other logistics issue is that we have hopefully ample time tonight, but we do have a hard stop at 6:15 tonight because we know that there's a council meeting tonight, and staff will need a little bit of time to get the room set up for the council meeting. Let's see, I'm making sure I called everything here, have everything set. Okay, with that said then, let's just turn to the back of the agenda. If you have the back of the agenda, let me just give a couple framing comments here and let us know where we are in the process here. So moving down, there was one prior public meeting around the EIR, and that was to receive public comment on the scoping meeting. So there was a period in which the EIR scoping was sent out to the public and received written comments, and then on February 22nd, there was an EIR scoping meeting where we received comments on that. Those comments have all been received, analyzed, and integrated into the draft EIR, which brings us up to the period right now. So we're in the draft EIR period, and that started on May 24th, and that continues through July 9th. We are today, June 19th, the public comment period. So one important item is, tonight is not your only opportunity to comment on the draft EIR. Clearly for oral comments it is, but we would love to receive written comments at tonight's meeting or after tonight's meeting and all the way through July 9th. So that's open for public comment. As we move forward and just projecting out the final EIR, the projection around that is for late summer, and there's an opportunity for public comment around the certification of the final EIR, and then we finally move down, and that'll probably be, again, most likely in the fall on the decision on the final project. But we're not there yet, right? We're still at the draft EIR stage. Okay, with that said then, I think I've covered everything in terms of purposes and agenda, and let me turn it over to Christy Weiss from David J. Powers and Associates, and she'll walk us through the EIR process and content.
Hi everyone, thank you Sean. Good evening, my name is Christy Weiss. I'm a project manager at David J. Powers and Associates, and our firm assisted the city in preparing the draft EIR. So as Sean outlined before, the first purpose of our meeting is to just give you a brief overview of the project and the project alternatives. Let's see, here we go. So the proposed project is the first one, the first row identified in the slide, which consists of 600,000 square feet of commercial uses, 2 million square feet of office uses, 339 hotel rooms, 800 residential units, 65,000 square feet of civic uses, and a 30-acre green roof. So the EIR also evaluates alternatives to the project that could reduce or avoid the project's significant impacts. So our EIR evaluated 3 alternatives, which are also listed on the table on the slide, as well as the no project alternative, which is required under the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. And the main purpose of an EIR is to inform decision makers and the public about the project's impacts, identify measures to avoid or reduce those impacts, and identify alternatives to the project to avoid or reduce the project's impacts. Now I'd like to provide you with a quick overview of the EIR process. There's 5 key steps. So the first step is the publication of the Notice of Preparation, or the NOP. And the NOP notified the public and the agencies that the city is preparing an EIR for this project. And as Sean mentioned, the comment period for that was between February 9th and March 12th. The next step is the scoping meeting, which was held here on February 22nd to obtain feedback on what you'd like to see analyzed in the EIR. The third step is to prepare and circulate the draft EIR. So this is the step that we're at right now. And the EIR is currently circulating for 45 days, and the end of the comment period is July 9th. So once that comment period ends, the city prepares a final EIR, which includes responses to those comments that are submitted on the draft EIR. And it's anticipated that the final EIR would be available in late September. So after the final EIR is prepared, the city will hold public hearings to certify the EIR and make a decision on the project. So as I just mentioned, the draft EIR is currently circulating. That's the step where we're at. A lot of research, technical analyses, and input from public agencies went into preparing the draft EIR, and we hope that you have a chance to take a look at the document. When you do, you'll see that the EIR is organized into the listed sections on the slide, and most of the impact analyses are contained in Section 3 of the EIR. And Section 3 includes the following topics. For each of the environmental resources that was just listed on the previous slide, the impact analysis follows 4 basic steps. So the first is to establish the baseline of environmental conditions for impact analysis. The second is to identify the thresholds of significance to determine the impacts. The third is to identify the impacts of the project, which are based on the thresholds of significance and evaluated against the baseline conditions. And the fourth is to identify mitigation measures to reduce or avoid any of the significant impacts identified. So before I pass it back to Sean, I just wanted to reiterate that we hope you get a chance to read the EIR. And if you have any questions or comments, please make sure you submit them to the city by July 9th, which is the end of the 45-day comment period. And those comments that you submit will be responded to formally in the final EIR.
Very good, thank you, Christy. Okay, so we're going to move now towards the heart of the meeting, which is the public comment. And so please fill out a speaker card, and you can set that up here, and we'll be ready to receive your comments. We'll have 2 minutes, and the timer will be displayed when you start speaking up on the screens there. I believe it's also on, you'll be speaking from that microphone. There's a little display here. If you look up, there we go. If you look up at the timer, it will change colors, as I'm understanding that, with 15 seconds to go, and then the screen goes blank, and I will gently remind you that your time is up if you go more than 2 minutes. Speaker cards, we're ready to receive comments. Who would like to speak? And as I look at this, we have the 2-minute maximum pertaining to environmental analysis. And we would love to hear your comments, obviously, the verbal comments here, and written comments are actually welcomed strongly for written comments. So even if you did have verbal comments, and the back of the speaker card would be great to write those down as well. Or if you just want to write down your comments tonight, there's the box outside, and you can put those comments in the box outside. Are you ready? Are you ready to speak?
Well, I was just wondering, follow the process exactly.
Yeah, but it would be great. Come on up, and if you did you get a chance to fill out a speaker card?
I did. Are they out there?
Yeah, they're out there, and they're over here as well. So here's a stack of speaker cards, and then on the table outside, there's also speaker cards. Great, excellent. Oh my goodness, thank you. I missed that. Okay, Mr. Randy, please come on up, and Mr. Hafner, please come on up.
No, so we don't go. Okay. Yeah, I sent email about this, but the NOP said 800 dwelling units, and the draft EIR covers 2640 and 4,000 dwelling units. So, dwelling units, housing unit. Yeah, housing units. Okay. So, you know, the purpose of the notice of preparation is described in Government Code 15082, and you really haven't done that. You know, you're describing one thing and doing an EIR on something else. So how can the public and how can other governmental agencies comment on what you should be looking at or what you should be investigating if you don't tell them, you know, in the NOP what it is that you're going to do, and you haven't done that. So I would say that you haven't followed the process. You know, computer people also have something they call a NOP or NOP, and what it is a no-op. It's basically an instruction that doesn't do anything, and that's what your NOP is. Your NOP is a no-op.
Thank you for that, Mr. Hafner, Rick Hafner. And then after that, we'll have Liang Chow, and after that, we have Connie Cunningham. Mr. Hafner.
My name is Rick Hafner, and I live right there in the corner of Stevens Creek and Tantau. So all this has been impacting me greatly. Apple Park, Main Street, it's right, Cupertino High. It's been nonstop construction in my life for the last 6 years. Vallco, I feel, is, well, actually, more specifically, the Vallco Bridge. When people think of Cupertino, I ask around, I said, what do you think? What is Cupertino? The Vallco Bridge. It sits there empty and eyesore, a reminder of failure, yet Sand Hill, for whatever reason, just refuses to do anything about it. And I think that's key in any kind of development, in any kind of future, to get more public input, interest, and enthusiasm about what the hell's going to happen at Vallco. The other thing is, what I'm seeing is kind of like a lot of oh-so-ran ideas. You know, Apple Park is a world-class center. Vallco, Cupertino Center should be world-class. If they're going to build, 5 to 6, 10 to 20 story apartment buildings, you're going to see those from miles around. It seems to me Cupertino would be better served to have a 40-story beautiful building, like something to be proud of, something that you're going to see and be interesting, than a bunch of just so-ran, couple-story, things. The roof is great, but then I'm hearing a lot of feedback that, well, it's too sloped, too steep to be usable. So that's kind of a question I have, is like, well, if you're going to have a park and you can't use it, then it's not really a park. So those are my two things.
Very good. Thank you for the comments. And Liang Chow is up next. And then we will go to Connie Cunningham after that.
What was hoping that you have a projector. So here is a page of notice of preparation from 2014 GPA. This notice of preparation specifically said it's going to consider a focused general plan amendment. And then there is a map of the sites that they are considering specifically. Although it turns out it's not the focused GPA, it turns out to be a rewrite of the GPA. But the notice of preparation for this Vallco EIR specifically said it's only for Vallco specific plan consistent with the adopted general plan. And the parameters are specified, at least 600,000 square feet of commercial use, 2 million square feet of office, 339 hotel, and 800 residential units. That's it. It didn't mention anything else. But now your EIR is illegal because people who write the comments for the NOP didn't know that you are going to consider 2,640 units of housing units. That's not consistent with the general plan. General plan in Cupertino has a maximum unit allocation. Whatever state law in SB 35 might change it, but then for any project that's under Vallco specific plan, it's not SB 35 project. You cannot take away maximum unit allocation by yourself unless the city council approve it. So you are evaluating an illegal project. And then the other alternative for 4,000 housing units, that's going to have a density beyond 35 units per acre. Again, that's impossible without any GPA, but none of the public agencies who received the NOP would be able to comment because you didn't specify it. Furthermore, you did not say in NOP that there will be 30 acres of roof, green roof. People would need to have comment, for example, on earthquake safety, on the maintenance cost of this green roof, and the accessibility, and a lot of other comments would have to be made for a 30-acre. That's a world record. Even not many real, so the feasibility, the maintenance cost have all come into play. And then for thousands of units, we need a minimum parkland, and that needs to be evaluated too. So you, the EIR consultant, do not have a right to change our general plan without any city council approval. I'm not aware of any city council direction to say we are going to GPA for Vallco, not in any city council meeting. So staff shouldn't override city council decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the comments. We are receiving comments tonight, and we're not answering questions tonight. That's not the purpose of the meeting. So Connie Cunningham, you're up next. And then after that, we have David Fung.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak on the EIR. I have read the first 95 pages. I will get to the rest of them before July 9th and make other comments written. I wanted to go on record as saying that I was pleased to see the chart that showed the numbers of houses and so forth on it, because it supported the Opticos planning process that we've been going through. And it showed to me that, in fact, it includes the options that are being considered under the Opticos plan. And I understand that GPA will be done concurrently when the City Council approves the whole thing. Mm-hmm. That said, a primary interest of mine, two primary interests. One was below market rate housing. Very excited about it. Very excited to see that that is a big part of what is being talked about in regards to this Vallco specific plan. That means that I'm interested in the number of houses, the large number of houses that's being considered, and I will be reviewing the rest of the plan to make sure that I'm not maybe way off base or something. But I think that it's so important to get housing in for our teachers and other employees mm-hmm. in our city. Mm-hmm. So I am very interested in seeing how that impacts us. Secondly, I'm very interested in open space and how we can take care of our bird life. You have a very nice section in there under the biological review where you talk about the kinds of care that the contractor can take to build a project that is bird safe. And so I applaud that piece of it. Very happy to see it. I understand that it does comport with what the contractor is willing to do. So I just make the point here that to again say how important I think that is.
Great.
And to thank you for bringing that up in your report.
Great, excellent.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. And you'll notice that we are recording the meeting, obviously, and that Christy and her colleague are taking ample notes to make sure we accurately capture your comments tonight. So David Fung, you are up to speak next.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name is David Fung. I'm a longtime resident. I'm also a planning commissioner, but I'm speaking as a private citizen tonight. My comment is actually mostly about procedure. This EIR is as a component of the totality of development that's considered in the general plan is a tiered EIR, and I hope that that actually that the staff report, when that comes forward, actually talks a little about that process and what that means. In particular, some of the numbers that we see here are quite large relative to what's been discussed and proposed. They are, however, not that large compared to the high impact scenario of the general plan. And since this is tiered from that, those that the usage does reflect somewhat from the from that earlier study. So I think that it's important for people to understand that this isn't completely out of the blue, and that in fact many of the findings that are printed up in the EIR, for anybody who's looked at both the city general plan as well as this project, we'll see that many of the issues that are raised and the mitigations are exactly the same, particularly around things like traffic. So I just hope that the staff presentation can make sure that people understand that and can understand some of the basis of why what was done is done.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. I do not have any other speaker cards, and we have lots of time. I'm going to encourage people to please make your perspective known, share your ideas with us. We'd love to hear your comments. Let me just remind you that we have the period is open until July 9th to receive comments, and that you are free to do that obviously tonight. I mentioned a couple times on the back of the speaker card is just a big blank there. It would be great for you to write in your comments there, or if you would prefer to craft your comments in front of your computer and do that in your own leisure time, please feel free to do that. And then the email address is on the agenda, and you'll see the email address there to send your comments to staff via email. Can I persuade anybody to come up and provide comments for us? Come back up here, Liang. We'll give you another 2 minutes, okay?
So I'd like to make a follow-up comment. So Vallco is a 50-acre site. Yes, I think there could have a significant number of housing units. And there could be 2,000, 3,000. There could be the general consensus might be different. However, the city council has not, the majority of the city council has not deliberated or voted on any amendment to the general plan to that effect. Before the city council do that, we should not have an EIR that go beyond the general plan. Okay, so my objection is not really to housing. My objection is to the process.
Right.
If we are going to have an EIR that evaluate any number beyond the general plan amendment, the city council has to give direct direction that this is what they are going to do. But this has not ever been discussed by in any city council meeting at all. Whatever public sentiment, that doesn't make it city council decision. And we cannot let the public sentiment drive staff decision and drive EIR. That's not legal. And also public agencies need to, the notice of preparation was sent out to all the public agencies, the school district and water district, all the other districts. They would not know what's a public sentiment for the number of units, or the public sentiment that there might be 30 acres of green roof. And without that knowledge, their comments are invalid. So that makes the process illegal.
Very good.
So we really need to restart the process, send out another NOP, and then collect their comments.
Very good. Comments received. Thank you.
Okay. So I had sent this to the planning staff and the council, so it's already in the public record. But as far as the notice of preparation, okay, so I took the first page of the comments from the Department of Transportation, State Department of Transportation, City of San Jose, Holder Law Group, County of Santa Clara, City of Sunnyvale. They all have a description of their understanding of what the project is, and it doesn't have. I didn't see one that had anything with a number of residential units above 800. Okay, so all these cities and this law firm basically have an understanding of what the project is, right? And it isn't what was covered in the draft EIR. So you have to believe that your notice of preparation isn't sufficient. Okay, the other thing I want to point out is San Jose had a project about a mile from the Cupertino border, less than a mile from the Cupertino border, and they increased the number of housing units and the number of square feet of office by, less than 20%. They put out a revised notice of preparation, because they thought it was necessary. You don't think it's necessary. You're way over, whatever margin of error San Jose, felt was necessary.
Yep, got that. Good. Okay. Other people looking to speak? Let me ask staff. We should stay here. Is that correct? Yeah. So we're just gonna stay till 6:15. There might be people getting off work and coming, and so we want to leave the space open for them. And I know you're all probably waiting for the council meeting tonight because you're gonna stay on for the council meeting. So we'll just sit tight and see what happens for the next 45 minutes. And if anybody has any desire to speak, you can do that at any time. I would love to receive your speaker card.
I'd just like to say my biggest concern about this whole thing is that what I've seen looks like trying to put suburbia, like a shopping mall, or that it's all like kind of low profile. And then they came up with the idea of these 6 apartment buildings that it looked like cubes. And I love the rooftop park. I thought it looked beautiful, but those cubes, it's like, why? This should be a world-class city, a world-class destination. It is right across the freeway from the other world-class destination. And whatever appears there, it seems to me the architecture should be really stunning from the freeway. It should, and why have the tower spread out all into where the rest of the neighborhood is, 4 stories, 2 stories, when right next to the freeway you could build very high and it probably wouldn't really bother anybody. There's huge redwoods to shelter that neighborhood along Perimeter Drive. Perimeter Drive should be saved. It's a beautiful place. The other thing is, this is one of the few sites in the entire valley where you can look around and see mountains all the way around. And that's why I think the rooftop park or more open space or something where more people can enjoy that aspect of the property is really important. If you go up to the top of the parking garages, both at Vallco there now and over at Main Street, it's one of the most beautiful views you can see. That's the only problem I see with having a big tower, but having 6 nondescript cube towers seems to me to be a really ugly way to make this project go forward.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hafner. Yes.
So just a few days ago, on June 4th, the council had a study session on the Vallco specific plan. The Vallco specific plan was anticipated in the general plan, and it is called for in that. In any case, there was a great deal of discussion that evening in regards to the housing. I was myself quite pleased to see the commitment that the City Council made to up to 30% of below market rate housing and up to 2,650 homes, and then perhaps another a different amount of 3,200 and some odd homes, depending on what other kinds of things are being built at Vallco. At this point, there is no discussion of exactly what those buildings are going to look at. They're just talking about the sort of like you would call the floor plan, for the Vallco specific plan. I know that many people are looking for a wow factor. I'll describe my idea of what a wow factor is, and that is that in Cupertino, in the richest, one of the richest cities here, with Apple right across the board, that we take this opportunity to house people of all income and all abilities. And the fact that on June 4th, our city council took it upon themselves to say that, they were dedicated to that, and to me that is the wow. That is what is showing leadership in our region. Our region, the entire region, needs housing, market, and below market rate. It needs it all. What it's going to look like, Sand Hill and their people will be designing what it looks like after. And those comments, of course, apply to what Sand Hill will be doing with the general floor plan and the kinds of programs, including the below market rate housing that's going to be put in. So that's my idea of wow for
Great.
our area.
Excellent.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Fung, we've gone through the rotation once, and that means that you would be up if we go through the rotation again. Not putting you on the spot, not that you have to speak. And anybody else, the floor is open. Yes. If you could just fill out the speaker card, just your name, that would be great. And we'll take notes on your comments. So very good.
I'm Eileen McLaughlin, and I actually live in San Jose, just a ways from this park. And in listening to this, and I've looked at other EIRs because of environmental work that I do, and so I also pay attention to the news as far as what's going on at Vallco, and I don't have really comment except that maybe there needs to be a session that talks to the public about what the differences are. This is a specific plan by the city. It defines what the city's expectations and maximums are and what can be done in certain places. It doesn't decide on the architecture. That is something subject to the subsequent builders that build then within what the city sets as its expectations. That's my understanding of what this is. Now, this site is also, through Sand Hill Properties, subject to this petition that the Sand Hill Properties put in under this recent state bill that allows, is for affordable housing of a large amount. And I don't know if that's a factor in the considerations here, and if that could be explained, that might, say, well, why people get upset. Right. So I think that's not clear to me. and perhaps that needs to be clarified as part of this EIR, draft EIR process. And so that's the only real comment I have right now. I had hoped to see some visuals on the project because I haven't had time to read through it yet. Right. So that's my comments for now. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you for making those. Thank you for stepping up. Good. So I think we'll just sit tight and we'll keep the door open for anybody who wants to come and join us before we close at 6:15.
I'm Kitty Moore, and I already turned in a stack of comments to the DEIR already. I want to mention that I did not see the gas station in the EIR. There was a gas station. It's shown on a plan that I was given from the city in 1975, and that might have had some underground storage tanks. Okay. Of course it would have. So I don't see any information about that. They say that the depth of cut is 20 to 30 feet, but it's actually 38 to 58 feet. So that needs to be corrected. It is let's see. They show, which I think is kind of interesting, that there are height limits. There are height limits, and they say it on page 162, and they are 30 feet and 85 feet. And those are pursuant to Council Actions 31U86, 9-U90, and Ordinance 1540, in file 1-DA90. And lastly, the site is on a hazardous materials list pursuant to 65962.5. That's California Government Code, and that renders it non-compliant with SB 35.
Okay.
That's it. So I'm going to turn in these.
That would be great. Excellent. Yes.
Wonderful.
I'll collect all of that. Thank you so much.
I am not knowledgeable on the specific EIR. And the only plan I have regarding the Sand Hill Properties proposal for Vallco has to do not with what Sand Hill is doing, because I heartily approve of that. I heartily approve of the Hills plan, which was the original plan for Vallco. I do think there are some measures that could be taken to improve the traffic situation, but those are not specifically related to Vallco. Other than that, I think that the access, egress, and capacity to 280 needs to be improved. And I think the only way to do it is for Caltrans to build a second deck on the freeway with direct access from the Vallco property and from the Apple property, so they do not add load to the city streets any more than they need to. And so I would favor the city taking a more vigorous posture with Caltrans to get them to improve Highway 280 all the way from Los Altos down to at least where Highway 17 crosses 280. I can't think of any other measure than the sorts of things that have already been proposed that would make a significant difference. But I believe that would make a significant difference. So in summary, I think the city needs to make a more vigorous take more vigorous activity with regard to Caltrans to get them to provide improved capacity on 280 through this portion of the city and the adjoining cities, and to provide direct access from both of these fairly densely populated properties, the Apple campus and Vallco. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Lisa Warren will speak now.
Yeah, I'd like to speak in my 2 minutes about the hazardous materials on the site.
And just a little bit closer to the mic so we can make sure.
Hazardous materials on the site. In the 140s pages of the draft EIR, there's mention of hazardous materials, and there seems to be some things missing that should have been noted and were not. One being that this used to be an orchard, and orchards used lead, arsenate, and DDT, which stay in the soil. That's not mentioned as part of the history. There was also a gas station next to the Sears Auto Center in 1975, and there's no mention of that. Why is that? And more importantly, tying this to SB 35, SB 35 is not compliant because this draft EIR points out that there's a requirement that if the site is listed on a specific, I will read this, the project is located on a site which is included on the list of hazardous materials sites compiled pursuant to the Government Code section 65962.5. So it is listed on, the site is listed on this list, which immediately makes it non-compliant with SB 35, which is a problem in itself indirectly. And I think I'm going to call it quits right there, but there's lots of other things, but I haven't been able to read the whole thing yet.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, so we have a couple minutes left before we're going to close the meeting out, and so if you would like to speak to the draft EIR, now is your opportunity to do that. We have plenty of speaker cards here and out front. Okay, let's bring the draft EIR public comment meeting to a close. On the screen there, thank you. On the screen there, just looking at the overview of where we've been and where we're going. So you see the notice of preparation, the scoping meeting in February. Here we are during the draft EIR period. With our meeting today on the 19th, the draft period will be open. Staff will be receiving comments through July 9th. Next stage after July 9th, the next stage of the process is to prepare and circulate the final EIR. There will be opportunity for comments at that juncture as well. That will be in the late summer, and then there will be public hearings late summer, probably early fall. So that stands out in front of you with several more opportunities for public comment. And once again, to remind you that as the public comment period remains open through July 9th. Staff welcomes and encourages written comments at this point, and you'll see the email address there. That is on the agenda that you have as well. So you have that information to provide written comments via email to staff, or hard copy. You can deliver those or mail those to the City Hall as well. It doesn't have to be via email. So that wraps up our meeting. Thank you very much for your participation and engagement, and we will see you next time. Thank you very much.